Hello everyone. Today we're going to have the lesson about the power of pin and how we can use the pin in different positions to get an advantage and win the game. Here we're going to use the pin to gain a tempo. We're not going to capture right away. We're going to keep the tension and we're going to push our pawn. And when black moves away the king to unpin the rook, that's when we're going to capture the rook. And now black is going to be one move away from getting inside the pass pawn square and stopping our pawn. But if we go back and instead of pushing our pawn first, we capture the rook and release the pressure and then push the pawn, black will be able to get in the square of the pass pawn and stop our pawn from promoting, and we're not going to be able to win this game. In the next example, again, we're not going to release the tension and we're going to keep the pin that's on the b3 rook. And what we're going to play is we're going to wait on d1 and c2, d1 and c2 with our bishop. Of course, if the b8 rook is just waiting, we're just waiting. Anytime the black king moves away, we can just capture the b3 rook. Anytime the b8 rook moves away, we can just capture the b3 rook with a check, and this game is going to be a draw. If we're playing with a bishop against a rook, this game is going to be a draw because our king is on the opposite corner, opposite color corner than the bishop. Our bishop is on light squares. Our king is on a corner that has a dark square. This game will be a draw. Black is not going to be able to win this game. So another example. Let's see. Here we are pinning the rook on f3 to the king. And this time what we're going to use is we're going to try to put white in a zugzwang. Now here white has a threat. White can try to save this position by a check and then moving to c3. And here white is going to be doing fine. So what we need to do is we need to move to h7 with the king and put white in a zugzwang. Now no matter what white plays, we're going to be able to capture the f3 pawn next because the queen must leave the f3 rook or the king must leave the f3 rook and no other white piece moves in this position. Let's see another example. Here again, if we take a look at the possible moves that white has, the bishop on e1 is pinned. The rook can move to e3, or the pawns can move. The white pawns can move in this position. So what we need to do is we need to stop the pawns moves and stop the rook from moving to e3. So here, by pushing the pawn to b4, whether white captures or pushes the pawn, it doesn't matter. We can just push our pawn to d4, and we are putting white in a zugzwang here. All we need to do is, even if white plays a move with their pawn, all we need to do is wait with our rook on g1 and h1 and f1, and white will be in a zugzwang. White will need to leave the pinned bishop either with the king or with the rook, and we will be able to win this game. Okay, because just to mention that playing rook to e8 does not work as well, because again we can attack the rook and the rook will have to leave the bishop at any in the next move. Maybe by giving the exchange, white is gonna try to continue to play this game. Okay, so let's see one more example. Here we're pinning the black knight. Again, we need to use this to activate our king, to gain time and activate our king and try to win this game, because again the black king cannot leave the knight undefended and move away. But of course what we have to be careful about is that black does not push the pawn to b5 and move the king away and unpin the knight. So it's very important we play the first move, the pawn to a4. Here, if black will try to move the pawn to b5, of course, right away we can capture it and capture next the knight that's on c6. But maybe black can try to push the pawn to a6 and then try to push the pawn to b5. But we don't have to capture there. We just push the pawn to a5 and not allow the king to move to b6 and unpin the knight. Now, at any moment when black's moves finish, black will have to leave the knight, and we will capture the knight and win this game. Moving this pawn is not dangerous because our king can stop that pawn from promoting. It's not a problem. And the other pawns, when they move, we can just block them. So when black moves finish, black should uh, move away the king, and we will capture the knight and win this game. So in these examples, we were seeing how we can keep the tension, how we can keep the pin and try to use that for our advantage instead of just capturing the pinned piece and giving our opponent an easier game.